Welcome back to Normal Baseball. The 2024 MLB winter meetings are underway. A lot of moves have happened, and we're here to talk about them. I'm Alex Normal Dog. That's Lewis. And Lewis, the winter meetings is most of the time the official start of the offseason where, a lot of the moves kick off and the snowball effect starts to go with these free agents. We are 3 days into the winter meetings. We've had a couple really big signings happen, and then a few trades happen, which is a couple of them maybe a little unexpected, a couple of them maybe a little bit more expected. We're going to talk about it all.
Yeah, I'm excited to break it all down. It's been a very eventful first couple of days of the winter meetings, and I'm hoping that we can hopefully break it all down and make sure that everyone knows exactly what's going on with their favorite team.
Yeah, so let's just get started here. The first thing we should talk about is, I think, the biggest contract that we've seen signed, minus Soto, obviously, this offseason. Max Fried signed an 8-year, $218 million deal with the New York Yankees, the largest guaranteed deal for a left-handed pitcher in baseball history. That beat a previous record from David Price, who signed with the Red Sox for $217 million in 2015. What do you think of this signing and the amount of money and the amount of years?
Max Fried obviously beyond deserves it. However, I do want to talk about the team that he signed with, the New York Yankees. This is their plan B, was to go out and bolster their rotation a little bit more, as well as I expect other moves to be coming with them, with all the rumors that have been swirling around the Yankees. Congratulations to Max Fried, largest contract for a left-handed pitcher in baseball history, as you mentioned. And I do also want to point out that over the last 4 seasons, he has had the lowest ERA in all of baseball at a 2.81. He's been great. Obviously, the postseason is a different story. He has, I believe, above a 5 ERA in the postseason. However, I'm hoping that with the Yankees, Matt Blake, and everybody, they'll be able to change that and fix him for the better, because let's be real, the Yankees need that pitching come October, and that's exactly why they lost the World Series.
Yes, you are right. He has been one of the best pitchers in baseball, not just in the last 4 years, but since 2019. He's had a 3.06 ERA, 3.06 ERA, which is the second lowest in baseball, which is right behind Garrett Cole, who is right in front of him in the Yankees rotation as well. So this Yankees rotation has definitely gotten stronger. You have a new number 2 starter. You have Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Hill, and then either Marcus Stroman or Clark Schmidt, or even both of them if they decide to go with the 6-man rotation.
The 6-man might help their aging rotation, especially if Garrett Cole is going to be the ace again this year. Having him rest for an extra day, I know that it sounds very stupid, but that extra day rest probably helps pitchers a lot more than we think.
Yeah, we'll see what they decide to do with that. But aside from that, and getting a little bit more towards my question, because we know Max Fried is going to be an amazing addition to this rotation. We know that he is going to contribute to the dominance of this rotation. It was dominant last year, and it's going to be even more dominant. We know he's been good. But getting back to my question originally is, Fried will now be a Yankee until he's 38 years old, at the very least, because this is an 8-year contract. How much of a concern is that, seeing as pitchers' age is really important to how they perform?
I would say it's a scary thing. The Yankees knew they needed to make this move. My assumption is that a different team matched the offer for 7 years, which was what originally was rumored throughout the entire day before Fried signed. It was a 7-year, 7-year, 7-year. I'm assuming that the Red Sox or the Blue Jays matched that 7th year. So what the Yankees did is what the Yankees always do. They flexed their money muscles, and what did they do? They added an 8th year for $27.25 million, and that's what got Fried eventually signed there. I think that it's a great move. And yes, you are a little worried about the longevity of Max Fried. However, I think we've seen it now with Justin Verlander, who won a Cy Young a couple years ago, with Garrett Cole, who's been aging like fine wine. I can imagine that there is a way to develop Max Fried into a pitcher that will last into the later part of his career until he's 38.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be looking into doing that. I don't think they would have signed this deal if they thought by age 38 he'd be completely useless. And like you said, it could have something to do with another team like the Red Sox, who we'll talk about, was looking at him and really wanted to sign him. And they said, this is the only way that he's definitely going to sign with us. They had to do it. And I agree, this is that Soto money that we saw. The money they put aside for Juan Soto, why they didn't aggressively pursue Blake Snell. They sat down with him and said, we can't tell you we're going to pay you this money until we know if we're going to sign Soto. Now they can activate fully their plan B, which is what they're doing. They have money to spend. Their window's closing. You mentioned it. Garrett Cole's in his prime. Even a guy like Aaron Judge is in his prime. They need to win now, so they figured we'll get this guy, and we'll deal with if he starts regressing at age 36, 6 years into the deal. That's fine at that point.
It's the Yankees. They will be able to live with that.
Right.
Like I said, I assume that a different team was willing to match the 7 years. So the Yankees going out and saying, like, hey, listen, we don't care. We will do what it takes to bring Max Fried in, I think shows how committed they are to trying to not only get back to the World Series, but to hopefully win it next time.
Yeah, and that brings me to my second question that ties into this contract. Is $27 million per year in overpay for Max Fried?
Per year, I don't think so. I think Fried has been a very good pitcher when healthy. I do think the years is what people are saying it's an overpay for, because we don't know what the longevity of Max Fried looks like. Will he age like a Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, where he's still serviceable at least? Or will he be a guy like Felix Hernandez that, kind of flattens out at a certain age, which obviously I hope is not the case for any player in baseball. I am going to say that on paper, it looks like an overpay for the whole contract. But $27 a year for a great pitcher that, honestly, if he went back to the Braves, would be their number one, is not an overpay.
Yeah, I was expecting him to get at least $30 a year, especially in this market with the Soto inflated market that we've seen a lot of guys.
The Luis Severino inflated pitching market.
Yeah, that we've seen a lot of guys sign for well over their worth. I was expecting him to get at least $30 a year, but that obviously wasn't the case. So we mentioned that the Red Sox were also looking to pursue Max Fried as they've been in the market for starting pitching all offseason. Well, after the Yankees signed Fried, they made their own pivot, their fifth pivot of the offseason in terms of starting pitching, it feels like. And they got Garrett Crochet from the White Sox.
They did.
In a pretty big exchange where they gave up 4 of their top prospects. They gave up catcher Kyle Teal, who is baseball's number 25 prospect, so MLB's number 25 overall prospect. Braden Montgomery, who is MLB's number 54 overall prospect. Infielder Chase Meadroth. Apologies if I'm saying that wrong. That is Boston's number 11 prospect. And right-handed pitcher Wikelman Gonzalez, who is their number 14 prospect. So this is not the first time the Red Sox have gotten a powerhouse lefty from the White Sox, Chris Sale, but they gave up a lot in doing so. What do you think of the deal for the Red Sox?
Using history as a guide, place your money right now on the Red Sox to win the World Series in 2 years. That's exactly what they did with Chris Sale, and that's exactly what they're looking to do with Garrett Crochet. I think that, first off, the deal is great for both teams. The White Sox get some great prospects. The Red Sox now move their pitching is now a very, very close step from being a very, very good pitching staff in that AL East, where you can talk about, hey, if John Henry goes out and spends some money, Tristan Casas spends an entire season in the bigs and playing first base, you're talking about a decent lineup with a very good pitching staff, and hopefully that bullpen that can perform as well as it did down the stretch last year. I think that this is seriously a good move. However, we do have to remember that Garrett Crochet and his agent did come out and say last year at the trade deadline, if you're going to trade for me, I need an extension to pitch in meaningful games. I think that now with Crochet having 2 years of control, he's on the Red Sox, a massive market team. we should see an extension before opening day with Garrett Crochet. I understand that he's not that proven, but in all honesty, his potential is worth it.
But I think something has to change, because you could say his potential is worth the extension, but being a professional baseball player and saying I'm not pitching in good games unless you give me this extension now, like, that's just such an unreasonable thing to say to a team, in my opinion. You can't say, oh, I'm not going to pitch in any playoff games because you're not giving me X amount of money. I think that's ridiculous, personally.
To be fair, he's not asking for the moon. 7 years, 120 million is not that much.
That's fine. It just, to me, that's a little weird. I agree with you in the sense of this is still a great trade for the Red Sox. I mean, Crochet had an amazing year. His ERA was 3.5 around there. And, after the All-Star break, he stopped really pitching a high volume. He would come out after the fourth inning no matter what.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm not going to get injured. I'm playing for the worst team of all time right now. Why am I going to risk injury? Which I think there's something in that. But again, like you said, this is very similar to that Chris Sale deal. I mean, this guy is insane. 35% strikeout percentage and just a 5.5 walk percentage. So
yeah,
he gets guys out. That's exactly what the Red Sox wanted. That's what they were looking for in Blake Snell, Yusei Kikuchi, Max Fried. That's what they wanted from those guys. Just top of the line pitchers. They didn't get it, so they were forced to make this trade. And the only way they do so is give up prospects. And then if you're looking at it from the White Sox side, this is a great deal. Crochet obviously did not want to be there. He was barely pitching past the All-Star break. And you're in a rebuild. You're in a hard rebuild. I don't even know if they're rebuilding technically. They're just existing right now. But I guess now they've entered, a rebuild stage where let's trade our good guys now to go get prospects that are going to be good for us in, 3 years, 3 years, maybe 4 years for all we know.
Yeah.
And I think they got more value from him in this than they would have gotten from last year's trade deadline. So I think this was a great move for the White Sox, and dare I say, maybe indicative of what's to come for them.
Yeah, definitely a good deal. Let's not forget, by the way, you mentioned that the White Sox are the rebuilding team here. After this trade, they now have 6 players in not just the top 100 prospects, within the top 60 prospects in all of baseball. So hopefully, and I personally would love to see it if all of these guys could pan out and have amazing, amazing MLB careers, you're talking about a team that could be loaded at the starting pitcher position, the catcher position now with Kyle Teal, the shortstop, Colson Montgomery, who's been a demon for them in that AAA MLB level, Brandon Montgomery, who looks to project to be a very, very good outfielder, and Edgar Cuero, another catcher who could move over to first base or DH. It's looking great for the White Sox. White Sox fans, you just got to get a little bit further. Another year or two, and then I really think that we can do what we did in 2021 and project them to maybe win the World Series.
Yeah, you just got to give it some time, and with time, we'll see. We'll see what other moves they make as well. This could not, or rather, this might not be their last move.
Yeah, let's not forget about Luis Robert or Robert, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah, Luis Robert could be the next guy gone.
Yes.
For them. We'll see, but in terms of guys who haven't been traded yet that might get traded, and we're talking about rebuilding teams, not necessarily a rebuilding team, but a team that is looking to get rid of a big guy, the Houston Astros. This is not an official trade or anything, but there is a lot of buzz that's been, heating up surrounding right fielder Kyle Tucker and his availability in his ahead of his last season before free agency. The Astros general manager, Dana Brown, said that they are willing to listen on anybody, and that's a quote, willing to listen on anybody, when he was asked about Tucker and starting pitcher Framber Valdez's availability. So they are willing to get rid of guys. I think Houston knows that their window might be closing a little bit. Their core is kind of broken up, especially because Bregman's about to walk, more than likely. And similarly, Kyle Tucker is a Scott Boras client, so he is going to walk no matter where he gets traded. So this is a 1-year rental, kind of what Soto was last season. It's very similar because it's a big name right fielder, amazing bat. who going into this year, you are not going to extend him. You'll have him for 1 year, and that's it. The two teams are the Cubs and the Yankees that are pursuing him the most aggressively. The Cubs package is said to include Isaac Paredes and Seiya Suzuki, among potentially other prospects and such. And then the package from the Yankees, all we really know is that the Astros are asking for the 2024 AL Rookie of the Year winner, Luis Gil, from them.
Yeah.
What do you think of the likelihood, just the likelihood in general, that Kyle Tucker does get traded this offseason?
Kyle Tucker being traded this offseason would be a good move from the Astros. However, I want to go out on a limb and guess right now, I don't think he will get traded because of Jim Crane. Jim Crane at the beginning of the offseason said, as long as I own the team, we will be competitive. And the best way for the Astros to remain competitive, even if they lose Alex Bregman, is to keep Mr. 10-year, $300 million Kyle Tucker in right field for the season. And pray to God that although you're not a big market team like what the Red Sox or the Yankees might be willing to offer him come the next offseason, you have to roll him out there every day. You have to try to win at any cost. On the other side, if you are the Cubs or the Yankees, you're doing quite literally whatever it takes up to a certain point. You don't want to give up. If you are the Cubs, I believe the talk started with Cody Bellinger and Nico Horner as a package, which would be a crazy overpay for the Chicago Cubs, considering that, like you said, he will only be there for 1 year. And with the Yankees, are you really willing to give up Luis Gil, who was dominant in the first half? Sure, did not have the best second half of baseball, but man, you don't win Rookie of the Year on being bad.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, what the Astros do have kind of pushing them towards making this trade is that they have not spent big on free agents in recent years. Really ever, which is showing more with this Bregman thing too. I mean, Bregman wants $200 million. They can't even give him that. So they have not spent big on free agents, and the chances is that Kyle Tucker would leave anyway.
Yeah.
Next offseason, just because, not necessarily because he doesn't want to be on the Astros, but because they can't pay him the money that he's going to be getting.
Which makes you wonder what's going to happen when Rodon is a year away from free agency.
That makes you think, what's going to happen when any of their free agents are unless they extend them now. Like, that's the Astros have to start getting on the Braves plan, where they extend the guy as soon as he comes up and just hope that he is a stud, which has worked out great for the Braves. So maybe it would have worked out well for the Astros if they did it with all their prospects that they thought would be good.
The only guy that has a decent chance of getting a contract from the Astros that already does not have one is Jerry Pena, because he's not played up to the level of an elite MLB shortstop just yet.
But
he's
they know
still young.
He can be.
Yeah, he's still young, so maybe it's worth it to try to extend him, but you cannot afford Kyle Tucker. $300 million over 10 years is a lot of money. Jordan is probably going to get $400 million from the Red Sox to play left field. Let's be honest.
All right, let's enough with these sweeping predictions for no reason.
I do think, though, in all honesty, if Kyle Tucker gets traded, he will go to the Cubs. And playing in the NL Central on your walk year as a young, power, damn near five-tool player in Kyle Tucker, foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, I think a trade would be in the Astros' best interests because you get the most value out of him. Yes, you take, I guess, a small step back. You're still getting, it seems like they would get, say, a Suzuki back from the Cubs.
Sneaky good.
And you don't know what you would get back from the Yankees. You're going to get a really good young pitcher from the Yankees at the very minimum. I think it's good. You take a small step back because their dynasty window is, I would say, is almost closed at this point. The dynasty Astros are kind of gone at this point.
If Bregman walks, yes.
Correct. If Bregman walks. This is assuming he will, because Bregman did say that he wouldn't. Yeah. He needed $200 million and they weren't going to give that to him. I think this is the best move to trade him in terms of what the Astros want.
Now,
I wanted to talk more about the Cubs. Like you were mentioning, you said that it was more
It started as.
Right, but you just said you think it'll be the Cubs if he
Yes.
does wind up getting traded. This would be the Cubs are looking to assemble an outfield of Ian Happ, Pete Crow Armstrong, and Kyle Tucker, which is an incredible outfield because I think PCA is going to be an amazing player next year. He was really good this year. I think he'll grow even more into form. No sophomore slump for him. But this would make Cody Bellinger their first baseman. But Cody Bellinger is also in some trade rumors. And even if they trade him, they can still go out and get a guy like Christian Walker or maybe Pete Alonso, dare I say.
Who, the Cubs?
The Cubs,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, okay.
And even if not, they can let a guy like Michael Busch play there full time, who he did very, very good
I
last
love him
season.
so
there.
much. I love Michael Busch so much.
So, I mean, I think they would have a plan if they did have to give up, say, a Suzuki and Paredes. And, you know, we could see a few more prospects go, or like one or two more prospects be thrown in there too. In terms of third baseman, they could replace Paredes with maybe a guy like Alex Bregman. I don't know how much money the Cubs are willing to spend, how much they have to spend.
Cubs are a big market team. They can spend the money.
But even if they're looking for a cheaper option, there's still some cheap third base options. There's Gio Urshela as a free agent who is a very quality third baseman. We've seen him last year with the Tigers and the Braves. He was very quality. Yohan Moncada, if they want to give him a chance on the other side of Chicago,
Can't hurt.
or even Josh Rojas. So there are like cheaper options. So I see the route where they trade for Tucker and give up some pretty good big league pieces, and then still have a route to make their team even better after that.
Yeah.
So I see it a very good route for the Cubs to do so. The Yankees, I don't really think it makes sense for them right now.
Yeah, I can understand that. I will say there's one team that I wish were in on Kyle Tucker solely because they have the prospect capital to give it up, and you really bolster a position of need, and that would be the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jordan Lawler by himself is worth damn near the moon to a few MLB organizations. I am very high on him. His numbers and everything project to be very high in terms of his advanced stats. I think that there is a world where you can trade away Jordan Lawler and get back Kyle Tucker. Obviously, more would need to be sent back from Arizona, like to the Astros, but having Kyle Tucker fill out left field for you this upcoming season would look amazing if you're the Diamondbacks.
But you have to think about it this way. He is a rental, and the Diamondbacks are not signing him when he walks in free agency. So if you're the Diamondbacks, you have to think, does Kyle Tucker make our team a World Series winning team right now? And I don't think that's the case.
It raises their floor.
I think it raises their floor, but that you can't be that. Like when the Yankees traded for Soto last year, they were already a consistent playoff team, and they needed to get over that hump to make the World Series. They didn't even win the World. They made the World Series. They didn't win the World Series. I don't think the Diamondbacks are in that position, and I'd say Juan Soto is better than Kyle Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
obvious,
kind of obvious, but I don't know. I don't think it would make sense for the Diamondbacks to give up a guy like Jordan Lawler, who can be a franchise player for them if they give him more run in the big leagues for one season of Kyle Tucker where it's not even sure that they'd make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think it's really risky business if they do that.
I completely get that. I'm just throwing out a third team because I think it would be interesting.
It would definitely fit if it was more than one. If he wasn't going, if
he were 3
rental,
years away from free agency, then
that'd be a little more.
Then I think 28 teams would be on him. Sorry, Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, I mean Tucker, he is a great bat. Last season he only played in 78 games, but he had almost a 1 OPS, 23 homers, 50 RBIs.
He's a stud. I absolutely love Kyle Tucker.
So again, that is not like an official trade or anything. That is just buzz that's going on that we could maybe see get finalized by the end of the winter meetings, which would be either Thursday or Friday. Yeah. We could see that happen in one of those 2 days, but we're just going to have to wait and see. If not, maybe it'll be later in the offseason, but the preliminary talks have happened at the winter meetings, and we'll see what happens from there. In terms of trades, going back to some trades rather that have already happened, there was a pretty interesting trade coming out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Guardians traded second baseman Andres Jimenez and right-handed pitcher Nick Sandlin to the Blue Jays in exchange for first/second baseman Spencer Horwitz and outfielder Nick Mitchell. This came as kind of a surprise trade, a little bit random.
Definitely a surprise.
Jimenez to the Jays. What do you think?
Weird, because
Just Jimenez to the Jays.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that right now. Weird because Spencer Horwitz was very, very highly touted, and people definitely looked at him as the Vladdy replacement in case Vladdy walks in free agency next offseason. To trade him for a guy that has been decent with the bat, a little bit above average with runners in scoring position, but a great glove at second base, it shocked me.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird because it didn't feel like Horwitz was a guy that needed to be moved, like at all. Well,
Yeah.
And Jimenez, he has a below average bat. He had an 82 OPS plus last year, but he had 30 steals, so he has that upside. He can run, and like you said, the glove is there.
3-time Gold Glove winner, 1-time Platinum Glove winner.
There we go. But Jimenez also has an extreme upside offensively. We saw it in 2022. He hit close to just under 300 with a 141 OPS plus. And that is what the Blue Jays want to unlock from him again, because if they can get that bat with his amazing glove, that is better than what Spencer Horwitz is to them, because he's a young guy and the Blue Jays want to, win now. Again, like you said, they only have Vladdy guaranteed for next year as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to win this year. And they get a really good reliever. Nick Sandlin had a 3.75 ERA and 68 appearances last year. So
which is
a good
crazy
reliever.
that you mention his numbers. If you look at the whole Guardians bullpen, those might be the worst numbers in the Guardians bullpen.
Right.
Which is crazy because those are still not bad numbers for a major league reliever.
Yeah, so the Guardians get rid of, a bullpen piece, yes, but it's not even one of their more, important bullpen pieces. It's not a Hunter Gaddis. It's not a Emmanuel Clase. It's not, he is a guy that they can get rid of.
Yeah.
And then they bring in Horwitz, which at the time, to me, like we said, was a little random because, rather, it was peculiar for me because they have Josh Naylor and they have Kyle Manzarno, who seem to, Naylor's their first baseman right now, and Manzarno is going to be their first baseman of the future.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't make much sense why they're going out to get Horwitz.
Until
the next day, or honestly, maybe a couple hours later, the Guardians traded Horwitz, so they flipped him to the Pirates in exchange for Luis Ortiz, right-handed pitcher Luis Ortiz, and left-handed pitching prospects Josh Hartle and Michael Kennedy. So they take Horwitz, who's this young 27-year-old, who's power, hits for average, and they get 3 pitchers for him. 1 big league right now and 2 pretty good pitching prospects.
Yeah. I'm excited the most for Luis Ortiz, obviously, because we'll see the benefits of that trade immediately when it comes to him and performing in the big leagues. But 3.332 ERA in the bigs for the Pirates and putting up a 3-WAR season on the mound while starting, how many games was that? He started 15 games. I would be willing to bet a insane amount of money that he finishes the year with a sub-3 ERA.
Yeah, what's interesting about Ortiz is that he doesn't have a lot of swing and miss stuff. So it's interesting. I'm going to be interested to see how he fares in Cleveland in terms of, he needs, if he wants to replicate the season he just had, you need to get a little more swing and miss stuff.
But no place better to develop that than with the Guardians, who have the reputation of developing pitchers.
Yes, that is true. So we'll see what they could do with him. And then, like you said, developing pitchers in the Guardian system. Hartle was a third-round pick last year out of Wake Forest, so we'll see how he pans out. We haven't really seen him in the minors that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kennedy was drafted in the 4th round of 2022 and had a 3.66 ERA in almost 84 innings pitched in low A and high A last year. So we'll see what they can do. Obviously, they've seen something in them, both of those prospects, if they made this trade. And then Luis Ortiz is the major league now talent to fill a spot in your rotation. Cleveland's rotation is now Tanner Bybee, Ben Lively, Gavin Williams, Ortiz, and Shane Bieber.
When he comes back.
Shane Bieber is back. Well, he's not back on the mound, but
yes.
they did just re-sign him. For now, it would be Tristan McKenzie, but they did sign Shane Bieber, which is what I'm trying to get at. Shane Bieber was a free agent. They re-signed him on a
deal.
1-year, $10 million deal, which I think was a good idea. You know, let him come back from Tommy John, be himself, and he has that player option in case he doesn't perform exactly how he expects to.
For sure.
So, again, that's the Horwitz trade. I'm excited to see what Horwitz does in Pittsburgh. He's probably going to be their first baseman. Every day.
He will be.
Because they have Nick Gonzalez at second. And another thing I wanted to say about the Pirates, just to finish out this trade, was they don't really need Luis Ortiz. As good as he was for them last year,
they don't need him.
They have a surplus of young guys in their rotation. Paul Skeens, Mitch
Good
Keller,
young guys.
Jared Jones, Bailey Falter, Johan Oviedo. They have a lot of starting pitching. They have a lot of young starting pitching.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know. I don't know if you saw this or not, but at the winter meetings today, they interviewed the owner of the Pirates, and he said that he was more than willing to do almost whatever it takes to extend a lot of guys in his rotation.
Yeah, hopefully,
that's
hopefully
a great sign.
Because the Pirates have not done that. So hopefully he's serious.
And there's no time like the present to capitalize on this much young talent in terms of starting pitching. It's hard to hit on one starting pitcher in the draft, and the fact that the Pirates have done it a very, very, very consistent amount of times, it's time to do something.
Yeah. So, rounding out the trade news, I wanted to touch upon a trade that happened in the middle of the night last night.
Very random.
Very random trade, but I woke up and saw it. The Marlins traded Jake Berger, third baseman Jake Berger, to the Rangers in exchange for middle infielder Max Acosta, infielder Echedri Vargas, and left-handed pitcher Brian Mendoza. So the Marlins trade Jake Berger, who just had a pretty good season for them, and they get back 3 prospects from the Texas Rangers, Max Acosta being the best of those 3. I think Berger is going to be a DH when he gets to Texas because you have Josh Young at third and Nate Lowe at first. So those his primary position and his secondary position are already filled out. He's not a good defender as it is, so it looks like they were just getting him for the bat in the lineup.
You never know if he can slim down and play center field. You never know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But what do you think? What do you think about this trade for the we'll say the Rangers? What do you think about this trade for the Rangers?
Great trade. Period. End of story. You get a very, very good bat for guys who, you won't see any results from in a few years. Marlins can deal with that. Not you. You're the Rangers. You won a World Series 2 years ago. You want to still try to compete. Great trade.
Yeah, and then I would agree with that. This is a team that's hungry to win. They won the World Series in 2023 and then missed the playoffs in 2024, so they want to get back there. They want to win. And then in terms of the Marlins, I guess I'll start for this. It can't hurt to get these 3 prospects. It literally cannot hurt. They were one of the worst teams in baseball last year. Having a guy like Jake Berger doesn't really help you if he's on the team next year. You're not competing to even make the playoffs. So let's get these 3 prospects. And Max Acosta is a very, very good prospect for the Rangers. So you get that guy as well. And we'll see how they pan out. I think this is a good trade for both sides.
Yeah, it sucks that the Marlins were so quick to rip down their 2023 playoff roster, but the fact that this is basically the last piece, I mean, the Marlins are about to enter a very, very, very dark time in their very long rebuild.
Yeah, it's going to be a long road for the Marlins, but this is step 1. Got to start somewhere.
It certainly is.
And this is it. They still have, some promising guys. We know that rotation with Luzardo and, Otto Lopez.
When Sandy Alcantara comes back.
When Sandy comes back, Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
They have guys. They have a base. They're going to run those guys out, let them get some experience, and see what prospects they could bring up through the season. They're going to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And I think this was a good move to start doing that.
Fair enough.
Going to the complete opposite side of the spectrum, a team that does not need to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. They know what sticks. They know it works. And that is spending money on very good talent. That is the Los Angeles Dodgers, who re-signed Blake Trinan to a 2-year, $22 million deal. Trinan was incredible. He was an integral part of the Dodgers bullpen last season that won the World Series. He had a 1.93 ERA in 50 games with them last season.
Yeah.
And not to mention, he's had a sub-3 ERA in sub-2 ERA in the last 2 full seasons that he's pitched. The last of which being in 2021, where he had a 1.99 ERA in 72 games, also with the Dodgers. What do you think of this signing? Trinan's back.
This is a champion move for the Dodgers. Like, you won a World Series on the back of this guy coming out of the bullpen. He's due for the payday. You almost have to give it to him. You are the Dodgers. You're the heavy favorite going into next season already. Might as well keep that bullpen as close to perfect as you can. And that's all that this signing was.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Amen.
This is just one of the steps in run it back.
Which
is exactly what the Dodgers.
One of the few steps needed in the run it back plan.
Yeah, they don't have much to do in that plan. They've done a lot. They've extended Tommy Edman. They've paid their guys.
They certainly have.
And now they're continuing to pay their guys with Blake Trinan. Moving on to another reliever who just signed is Jordan Romano. Signed a 1-year, $8.5 million deal with the Phillies. Could get up to $9 million if he pitches 60 innings or more next season. He had an elbow injury last year that kind of kept him out for a good amount of time. He only pitched in 15 games, and in those 15 games, he had a 6.59 ERA, so not great.
Yeah.
But I love this signing for the Phillies.
As do I. I also love it for Jordan Romano. Jordan Romano would like to issue my official apology. I'm sorry for drafting you in fantasy. Obviously, I'm cursed, so that's on me.
That is true. You are cursed in fantasy.
Yes, I am, so that's on me. But I am very happy to see that he is with the Fightin' Phils. I think that it helps the Phillies in terms of keeping that very power back-end bullpen powerful, especially if you get a fully healthy Jordan Romano. And good for Jordan Romano taking that 1-year prove-it deal. I think that if this season goes according to plan for him and he pitches well, there's going to be a team that is willing to give him a 5 or 6 year deal and guarantee him the closer spot, which would be very, very important to him.
Yeah, a healthy Jordan Romano is one of the best closers in baseball.
Yeah.
One of the best relievers
and
in baseball.
People forgot about that because of how injured and how poorly he pitched last season.
People quickly forgot about that too. It's almost disrespectful to him because just a year before that, he had a 2.90 ERA and he had 36 saves. He had 36 saves in back-to-back seasons, and his 105 saves since 2020 are the 6th most during that time span.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who can close out games. This is a lights-out guy. He walks. I mean, he strikes out 30% of the batters he faces. He only walks 9% of the batters, which is some crazy good stats.
That's closer stuff.
That is exactly what you want from a closer. He was an all-star in 2022, 2023. I don't see how this would ever be a bad signing for the Phillies. This is great for Jordan Romano, like you said, a 1-year prove-it deal. Show, I had bad numbers last year. Maybe that was because I was injured. Probably was, to be honest.
Definitely was.
And then for the Phillies, again, you get another back end of the bullpen guy, which is nice because 2 key pieces from last year in Jeff Hoffman and Carlos Estevez are still in free agency. So you don't know what's going to happen with them. If they get Estevez back, that is a deadly bullpen. I mean, deadly bullpen.
For sure.
Right now it's Jordan Romano, Matt Strahm, Jose Alvarado, Jose Ruiz. They have a very good bullpen. I think bringing back Carlos Estevez, Jeff Hoffman might be the next steps in, fortifying that bullpen. So we'll see what happens from there. But I like that for Jordan Romano.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from him and the Phillies in their bullpen come the start of the season.
Yes, and then I guess another reliever that we forgot to mention, Jonathan Loaiza, goes back with the Yankees. I guess it's not really crazy news because he didn't pitch last year. He got Tommy John. He'll be back early next year, but
he got an elbow procedure.
Sorry, an elbow procedure. It's notable because the Mets were actually pursuing him, reportedly. We were talking about that bad Mets bullpen, and the Yankees beat him out for that. So I guess the Yankees beat the Mets in something.
It's 1-1 right now. It's tied.
Let's go with 5-1 because the Mets went 4-0 against the Yankees last season.
That's
so
true.
Until next season starts, that's when it resets.
5-1.
5-1. They gotta win against the Mets in
Who
the
would've
last
thunk?
calendar year. They've done it. So yeah, Loaiza goes back with the Yankees. I wanted to mention that during the Fried thing, just forgot.
Yeah, no big deal.
The last thing that I have on my list in terms of things that have actually happened, Alex Cobb signed a 1-year, $15 million deal with the Detroit Tigers.
He saw what happened with Flaherty, and he's like, let's see if the Tigers can fix me.
Yeah, $1 million bonuses at 140 and 150 innings pitched, so it could get up to $17 million. He had a 2.76 ERA in just 3 starts, 16 innings with the Guardians last season. He was injured for pretty much all of last season until the end when he made those 3 starts with the Guardians. I think this is a good move.
Good move.
mean, he pitched well when he was healthy last season, and he's a veteran presence in a very, very young rotation, which I don't really see any bad in that.
Could not agree with you more.
Not that Tariq Skubal really needs veteran presence.
It's still good to have a veteran who knows how to handle the very, very rigorous 162-game schedule.
It's true. Tariq Skubal did win a Cy Young. And then they have a guy... Unanimously. Wasn't even close.
My goat.
But this is a Detroit team that just made the playoffs. First time in 10 years. They're a young team. So, again, having that veteran presence in the rotation is pretty big.
God, I love Kerry Carpenter. Yeah, they made the postseason. God, beautiful.
Did I miss anything in terms of people who have signed?
You did not miss anything in terms of people that have signed. I believe I do have a few extra points that I just want to throw out there.
What do they entail?
Roki Sasaki is where we'll start.
Yes.
He is starting to meet with teams sometime next week. Now, let's not forget, the international bonus pool money resets on, I believe, January 1st or January 15th. Do you think if a team blows him away in the presentations, he signs with a team before the international bonus pool money resets?
I guess it depends on the team and depends on how much pool money they have, right?
So right now, I know for a fact that the most amount of pool money that any team has, I believe it's like 6 or 7 teams, have $7.3 million in pool money.
And how much does it reset to?
I believe it resets to 8.
So
But all the teams that have that 7.3, excluding the Guardians, I believe have it, are like bottom feeders. And the Athletics, which, hot take, I texted this to you earlier. I think there's a world where the Athletics could sign him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to go to the Athletics.
But it would be fun.
You're out of your mind. He wants to go to a winner. I know his agent said that he's open to signing with smaller markets, but not Sacramento small. I think we'll see him go to one of the big players, Cubs, Yankees.
Dodgers.
I think he's going to stay on the West Coast, so I think Padres, Dodgers, probably the most likely.
My guess would be Dodgers if the pool resets. If not, I genuinely do think that the Athletics have a good shot. They have a decent lineup that is only getting better with age, and their starting pitching is the thing that needs help. They can pitch it to him like, dude, you're not only going to be the guy, you're going to be like the bona fide guy.
Yeah, I don't see it happening when he's got his best friends Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani over in LA.
Let me just imagine someone not going to the Dodgers.
Let
me just imagine someone not going to the Dodgers. It sounds like fun. It sounds like fun, personally.
All right, well, that's Roki Sasaki. We'll know more when he starts meeting with teams. Those rumors will kind of start to
they'll trickle in.
And then just a couple other guys I wanted to mention. potential trade candidates. Devin Williams, still out there. People are still inquiring on him. Still a chance he gets traded.
For
and
sure.
then Carlos Correa is also a name that I've seen thrown around, but I think that's very unlikely. Rocco Baldelli came out and said, I do not want you guys to trade Correa, or he said that to the media. I do not want Correa to be traded. They'd have to get a really, really good package because they love Correa.
It would have to be a Godfather offer.
Yeah,
and no team is willing to do that for a guy who did not have his best season last year. Let's just say that.
Yeah,
in some other news.
Oh, you got more.
Oh, I do, Alex. Your Washington Nationals, for the third time in franchise history, have the first overall pick, which is exciting. Let's not forget, in 2009 and 2010, they went with Steven Strasburg, World Series MVP, Bryce Harper, one of the most underpaid guys in all of baseball in today's game. Cannot miss. Ethan Holiday, I think, in my opinion, is going to be the number one pick. Would fill out that third base hole perfectly. I look forward to this for the Nationals. This is hopefully the final time in a long time, that the Nationals will be involved in the draft lottery process.
Yeah, this is actually funny. I mean, I don't know much about the incoming class. I don't really follow college baseball or high school baseball for that matter. I know Ethan Holiday. I don't know many of the other prospects.
He's a stud.
I'll start to know the other top prospects throughout college baseball once we get into the college baseball season. As of right now, I really don't know who's on the table. Good for the Nationals. I think the Mariners also have the third pick.
Yeah.
I don't remember who
Angels got two.
Angels have the second pick. The draft lottery is very funny because the White Sox just had the worst season of all time, and they have the 10th overall pick, which sucks.
Yeah.
So, really unfortunate for them. We'll see what happens with that. Good for the Nationals, especially another young rebuilding team. See what they can get done with that first overall pick. Got anything else?
One last thing, and then we can get out of here. Jeff Passan today at the winter meetings reported that the market for Pete Alonso, the Mets first baseman, a beloved guy in Queens, the market is, quote, non-existent. I think that means there's a perfect path to bring him back to the Mets on a very team-friendly deal. A team-friendly deal in Scott Boras terms, so he'll still get paid.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting to hear that there's no real market for Pete Alonso when there are teams that do need a first baseman. I think it's just, right now, he's being overvalued by Boras. Like, in all honesty, Pete Alonso is a 20 million at most player, and the fact that Boras, before free agency even started, said that he wanted to try to get him at least 25 to 30 was a little outlandish, and I hope that Scott Boras has to eat his words on that one and make Pete Alonso a Met.
I think this will be something that heats up maybe in a while. I don't think this will be a signing that we'll see until, a couple months from now. But honestly, I can kind of see where Boras is coming from, just in the sense of, Pete played all 162 games last season. He's not known, or in 2023, the season before last, his average dipped down to 217, but then he got it back up to 240. He's hit 34 homers, 31 doubles, and then we can't forget what he did in the playoffs. He was an extreme clutch hitter, and he just hit really well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think there's negotiations to be had, and I think, Boras is starting up here because we're still early in the offseason. So Boras is starting way up high. And I think the teams that would be in on him, except other than the Mets, I mentioned it before, the Cubs, maybe even the Yankees. But teams like that have to figure out what they're doing first with some other pieces in terms of, if the Yankees want to trade for Bellinger or,
Christian Walker is also out there.
Yeah, what the Cubs want to do. Christian Walker's out there. Goldschmidt's out there. I think a team will sign Goldschmidt by the end of the offseason. Sure. So,
I think right now for Pete, Christian Walker has to set his market. Because if you're Pete Alonso, you cannot set the market low.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that because if Christian Walker goes out and signs for $18 million, if you're Pete Alonso and Scott Boras, you're saying Pete Alonso's worth more than $18 million. Someone's going to fork over the cash now because most teams' number one option in Christian Walker is now gone. So let's see what you got.
All right. That's all I got. You got any more? No?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, that's it for this winter meetings update, the signings, the moves that have gone on so far, and the moves that could potentially go on in the coming days throughout the last 2 days of the winter meetings. We will be back at the end of the winter meetings on Friday or Saturday to recap it. We might not if nothing else happened. You never know. But for now, that's it. That's all we got. We thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment.
Subscribe.
Well, I was going to say comment what you want your team to do this offseason.
Yeah, but I said subscribe.
And subscribe. And we will see you guys in the next one. A peace.